$1,000 bills today. Let your problems dissipate, 'cause I'm chill out. Let those worries leave your mind, or hit chill out. Just unwind and have a good time.
Hey, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? It's your boy T,
Yeah, it's your man B.
and you on the ride up.
Hey, is this considered episode 15? That's what we're doing.
I think we're on episode 15 today. It's a big episode, man. This is something. Today we're going off the norm. We're going away from our norm. We're not going to directly talk about sports. Today we're going to talk about mental health, right?
I think it's exactly our norm because
Is it
it's intersecting. And
okay?
as everything does. We're talking about figures in sports, but we're talking, we're lead into how those things affect mental health and mental our brains and and issues surrounding it. So yeah, no,
Oh,
I think it's right up our wheelhouse, bro. So we
okay.
good. All
All
right.
right. So over the last week or so, the talk of the town has been the Aaron Hernandez docu-series surrounded around his murder case and pending suicide.
Right.
And you know, I was reluctant to watch this because this isn't my brand of entertainment, or like I don't negativity, and I
Right.
felt like the energy around the entire Aaron Hernandez story as it was playing out in real time was just negative, and it was just dark, and I had zero interest, because I felt like, is it going to be a smear campaign? What am I going to get out of this? And it's so what ended up happening is that I got vetoed, and that's fine. Sometimes you get vetoed, and you wanted to talk about it, Rail wanted to talk about it, and I'm like, it's sometimes you just got to talk about it. But what made me more compelled to talk about it was the fact that mental health was at the forefront,
Right.
and a lot of things over the last week have been about mental health. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. This is a great um, segue to talk about it, and not necessarily talk about stats and rings and championships, right?
Hmm.
We have other days for that.
Right.
So first and foremost, we talk about this guy Aaron Hernandez, who was a dog in college,
Hmm.
but and and a lot of times, if we're not, as fans, the public, we're not privy to the behind the scenes stuff that these NFL scouts get, right? But if
Right.
you take what Aaron Hernandez was doing on the field, uh, it definitely didn't say draft him in the third, fourth round.
No.
Like he had first round talent,
Right.
right?
Right.
But something had, like, we didn't think, oh, something had to be there. We figure, okay, maybe he isn't checking all the boxes, but we don't always know what box he's not checking, or
Hmm.
what box these athletes aren't checking, because we've seen guys with checkered past, you know, in the news, and they still get drafted top 10 sometimes, right?
Right. Right.
One particular player who I won't name, who seemed like he had red flags around him, got drafted like top 3 at the running back spot a couple years ago. So it's like, you know, he sort of went under the radar. And the fact that Rob Gronkowski wasn't a first round draft pick either,
Hmm.
it sort of justifies the Patriots drafting him late. But Bill Belichick is really good at evaluating the competition's draft board without seeing it. And if he
Okay.
feels like a player that he wants, it's higher on their draft board, then he might draft higher, or he'll evaluate somebody else and maybe take them. But I
Yeah.
think he knew that, he could get Aaron later on in the draft.
Right.
And he got him in the 4th round. So what ended up happening is he way exceeded his position,
Right.
and within 2 years ended up getting a $40 million 5-year extension. And you know, unbeknownst to us, not nearly 2 months after he got this deal, he caught a body, right? He caught
Yep.
two bodies actually,
Yep.
and the docu-series shows that it was pretty much over nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like it was over nothing.
Yeah.
Like they said it was a drink spilled or something, and he just had these. He was just a sociopath, and I feel like that's the only thing that I kept saying. I felt like this documentary, it showed the ebbs and flows of his personality,
Mm-hmm.
and I think at one point somebody suggested that he was bipolar, and he refuted that diagnosis to say he wasn't bipolar. But you can't refute it if all you're doing is showing that you are bipolar. If you're happy and smiling one minute, and then you're a raging lunatic the next.
I
Now
mean, okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Now, I'm not saying that you aren't triggered to have those ebbs and flows, but they exist, and that's what matters. That's what it doesn't matter what it happens. The fact that you can't control your emotions to not be so up and down is the the bipolar, not the fact that you are actually up and down. It's because you fail to be able to control it.
Right.
And he ended up murdering his friend, who was not just a friend, but clearly like soon to be a family member, and because he's dating the guy Odin Lloyd was dating his wife's or fiance's sister.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they was just homies on the field. They broke bread together. You know what I'm saying? They were in intimate settings together, and for it to turn out like this was crazy. And I think the public is like, nah, no way. Or we thinking the age old story of it's probably his hangers on, it's probably the guys who he couldn't let go of.
Mm-hmm.
And the documentary ends up showing that he didn't have none of those. He
Right.
was out seeking those guys, to be, I guess, fall guys in a sense.
Right.
Like, yeah, they spin it like, oh, he got him for protection, but the reality is people needed protection from Aaron. Right? You talking about this big? He's 6'4" and like 250.
Right.
Outside of gun violence, what day-to-day violence are you really in danger of?
Not much.
Right? And then the guys that he got quote unquote to protect them, they're not football players.
Not at all.
Right?
Just petty criminal guys that like loosely associate. He loosely knew like or saw around when he was growing up or whatever. It's a weird situation, man. Like we say like he's both bipolar, like he's exhibiting these conditions, and they I guess they get into like his brain scam once he committed suicide, and you like nobody really understands the brain, like no one, like neurosurgeons, neurologists, they don't really understand yet, and it's they're still coming to terms with what they call CTE, what they call concussions. They don't fully grasp it yet either. Even the people that are on the forefront of it. So, like he had black holes basically in his brain, and we don't know from one person to the next how that can affect somebody. It's a strange, and then not just that. It's just like the weird family situation. Not weird, but like the family situation he was in. His father was overbearing, and was physically abusive. It sounds like to his mom and to him and his brother. Uh, when his father finally, passes away, his mom marries his cousin's husband, his older cousin's husband that he grew up in love. Like it's just that, and that's strange. That's soap opera like. It was just strange things surrounding him. The discussion of whether he's gay or not, and maybe those thoughts going through his head wherever, and how he has to hide whatever feelings he was going through. And
So,
yeah, man, it's
so my take on that, right? Just from seeing things play out in the world, where you have these different uh, aspects of life that could possibly be the trigger. You have the fact that he potentially has CTE,
mhm,
where he's just had like major brain trauma from playing football or whatever he's doing, banging his head against the concrete. Uh, a a troubled youth after losing his
mhm,
father being an overbearing type of person and just being sporadic. He might have inherited that from dad,
right,
not getting the type of love that he felt he deserved from his mother. The fact that he may have been bisexual uh, to some degree,
right,
uh, and you have them laying these scenarios out to say, hey, okay, maybe it was this, or maybe it was that, and maybe it was that. And from my experience, most guys who are uh, who have closeted homosexual activity, they don't generally kill themselves. They kill other people,
mm. Well, he did
right?
both.
They kill
He
they
he
kill other they kill other people,
right.
and it's weird because I thought it was I did, I don't have a problem whether or not he's gay or not. I didn't have a problem with it, right? What was your takeaway? How did you feel about the he was gay slant that they took?
I think they were. I think that was like a little bit agenda driven to try to like stereotype athletes, and maybe athletes deserve that stereotype about being afraid to be around or whatever in the locker room with gay dudes or whatever, and how he grew up that his father didn't want to have a gay son, and maybe that like played into some of that stuff. I didn't have a real problem with it. I thought the star quote unquote quarterback that I've seen, like, I don't know, it's that he didn't really play in the
I don't
in
necessarily
high
think he
school.
was a. I don't think he was a star quarterback. I think he
Yeah,
was just a quarterback.
yeah, he was on the team, that's for sure. But like I think they kind of like fell in love with his story, like hit that guy's story, and then kind of built that a little bit around, regardless of if Aaron Hernandez had those conflicts or not. And it that doesn't mean anything. But I think like how you build a story, how you build a narrative, that's important too. Like in being informative. And I don't think they were kind of. I think they were kind of heavy handed, especially in the beginning with that, like with that particular guy. I like
So
that they had that offensive lineman for like I think they could have had him for context as far as being in the NFL and being closeted and all that. I thought that's a genuine perspective, but I don't know about having that childhood friend or whatever, and that
so
was kind of weird to me. But whatever.
so so for me, the problem that I had. This is the problem I had with the homosexual slant. I felt like even if Aaron did whether or not he had any type of sexual relationship with this this former friend slash former teammate, it's like he's out of the closet gay dude. And he's like, Dad, Dad, and Dad is like celebrating, like he telling him we had a relationship. Like, the words that people use to describe these quote unquote encounters, I think they're very misleading and very inaccurate when you say stuff like we were lovers, we
Right.
had a relationship. If you performed oral sex on him twice, you're not lovers. You had a relationship. You gave him oral sex. Not saying he's not saying you can't say he's gay because of it, but don't go around acting like y'all like to be lovers. I mean, y'all were in the bed sleeping together. To be in
Yeah,
a
it was.
relationship,
I,
means y'all going on dates. Y'all weren't going on dates. Y'all weren't there was no relationship. Like so stop. So let's stop that narrative. Another issue I had is they said, oh, maybe there was an inmate that he had who's this inmate? Like, what is it? Like, don't show me a picture. Like, what's the and why? My thing is, if he were really battling with this closet homosexuality, then I would have expected there to be some unknown, out of nowhere person of interest that could have come out and said, yes, I met him at the club one night and we had a sexual relationship that was on and off. Something like that to further substantiate this claim versus somebody from back home who worshiped the Hernandez family, and this is our
way to
moment in
get
front of a
into the
camera.
right.
Because no, and I'm not going to give my opinion on the quarterback, but several people contact me like they're like, "Yo, Cuz look gay. He looked gay as a kid." And I'm like, listen, that's not for me to say, but
Yeah, no.
if somebody is that closeted and that private of having homosexual feelings, he's just he's gonna be, you know what I'm saying, fooling around with the guy that people think is gay
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
because daddy didn't know it was gay.
I just think I just think that was maybe they liked his story or like how he came across on camera. And
That's cool, but my problem again, like my problem is,
yeah,
so you mean so my I want to hear somebody else from that high school
right.
say
Somebody corroborate
say
that. Yeah,
yeah, somebody say yeah, they were a little close, or we knew he was out we knew he was, but Aaron, that's out of nowhere. And I don't, you know what I'm saying, I would have liked to see that type of add on. So to
yeah,
not have that tells me something. Like either you tried to when you got contradicting information, and would have made that part of the story fall through,
mm,
you know, and then it is funny how at the end of the documentary they roll into him killing himself 2 days after this reporter goes on air cracking jokes and da 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 about him being a closeted homosexual. Where'd you get this information from? Let me guess. I mean, like, they didn't say who it was, but only one person on camera saying they had a relationship with him. So was it the same guy that's that's sitting by daddy?
right.
Who? My thing. This is where I call bullshit. It's when he said "gee whiz." This old dude said "gee whiz." I was like, yeah, all right. Y'all dancing for the camera right now.
Yeah,
Nobody says "gee whiz." What
yeah.
is this? The Andy Griffith show?
I would have thought you're right. I think if you're going to explore that part of Aaron Hernandez and try to find um, that part of his story, I think you would have more than what they gave you, especially early on. And yeah, I think that's unfortunate because it's a captivating story. I think it should be told because I think it's a warning sign, the worst case scenario of CTE, and just having and everything else that was circling and around him. So with being a celebrity, being untouchable, and having all those things happen all in a short period of time. And I'd rather not get lost in the fact that whether he's gay or not. Like that's the facts are that he killed these two guys. He kept going. Got scared. One of the guys that saw him kill those two guys was gonna snitch. He shot him in the eye and in his head, and he lived. And the reason he was scared is because that guy, could, touch him. And then he, for whatever reason, he kills Odin Lloyd, rest in peace. And it starts that's when it finally unravels for him. And that's the wildest story just on its own that you could ever really try to get your head around. And I think I think they did a kind of a disservice to it if they were going to explore whether or not Aaron Hernandez was gay or not. Cool, like find something other than the very leery. I'm very leery of calling your quarterback. You know what I mean? The guy that was on the team with him. We don't know who corroborated that friendship. We don't have any of that. Like his other friend didn't say anything to anything close to what this other kid was saying that was on the team. So I don't know.
I felt like it was an attention seeking angle because what does that have to do with three dead men? What does it have to do with it?
Right.
Like unless you were saying that they found out that he had a lover or something like that, which they never came out and said. What's the point in talking about him being gay? Like it was for what? Like why is there a desire to out somebody?
Yeah, I think the only thing that makes sense is that he may have been feeling the pressure of that, but I don't think that. I don't know. But I can't really.
The quarterback's dad did say one thing that I completely agreed with. It's when Aaron went to the team to ask to be traded because he was having some difficulties, quote unquote, rather than them investigate, they helped him get a second, a secret location to live.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
With no follow up.
No, none. That was the weirdest thing ever.
Right. So it's like I was like that's crazy.
Meanwhile, Des Bryant is getting followed around with a whole bodyguard and PI out in Dallas.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. It's weird.
It's like you look at this guy's checkered past, and he should my thing is, history has shown these guys need they need round year attention because you got an investment to protect. You got this man $40 million. Protect that $40 million.
Right.
Listen. Why? I'm saying you admitted to this. You hit the guy in the ear, bust his eardrum. You sporadic. I'm gonna keep my eye on you.
Right.
And so it's interesting that we are talking about mental health, and maybe if he had someone to talk to, rather outside of his cousin played a great role in his life, but she was the equivalent of a nurturing yes man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's cool to have a yes man in your corner because sometimes you want somebody to say yes, but you also need somebody to be like, yo, what are you doing?
Right.
Right?
Right.
If you don't have anybody listening, if you don't have somebody on your team that's going to say, yo, what are you doing? Then you don't have a complete team.
Absolutely.
You need someone that's going to be like, listen, now they don't necessarily have to have enough influence to stop you from doing it, but you need someone in your team that's going to be like, yo, what are you doing? No, that's not the way you're going to handle this.
Right.
Right? Now, because it's just, and I think that's a key part in people who go down the wrong path. people who, you know what I'm saying, never turn back around and they do things that they can't undo. Once you kill somebody,
yeah, that's a wrap.
Like there's certain things that you do to people that you can't undo.
Right.
If you rape someone, you can't unrape them, right? They'll be dealing with that for the rest of their lives.
Right.
But I mean, and then it's not as you can rob somebody, you can hustle somebody out of their money, or you can lie to people, you can even physically harm somebody, right? Like beat them up. You can repair those type of things, but it's really like to murder someone. There's no repair.
No,
right?
No,
so,
absolutely.
And you know, I come from people who don't care, people who will shoot you just because they feel like shooting somebody, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm not listen. I'm not a no guns, none of that. I'm not that type of person. I'm not gonna act like I'm not. But listen, I've been around murderers, but I've never been around someone who I would consider a senseless murderer. Now I know that sounds crazy, but what I mean is, it's not like, oh, he bumped me in the club, he dripped a drink on my shoe, so I'm gonna stalk him, then I'm gonna smoke him. It's more so like drug game type murder type stuff. And I mean, that's just, so my thing is, once you go down that lane, you sort of sign up for, you know what I'm saying, the consequences that may come with it, whether it be your death, whether it be going to jail, or having to murder somebody else.
Yeah, once you get that, right? You're kind of that's what it is.
And then that's a whole other psychological acceptance you have to go through as well, because I've been through the same things that some of these guys went through. It's just I had people around me who's like, nah, we not gonna do that. Instead of going down 3rd Street, we gonna go down 2nd Street, maybe shoot some ball, maybe throw a football. Hell, let's go flirt with some girls, you know, chase some girls around with boogers on our fingers, something else that can distract us from having these idle hands and being alone with our thoughts and just doing things that are irreprehensible.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
I got. Nah, man, he was. It's like a lot of people like that. Like you're saying, that happens to. It's like he fell through the cracks, and I think because he had a father up until he was 16, I think people thought, you know, oh, okay, so he's okay. But I don't think you can ever really like think that. I think that you gotta constantly check into people, constantly make sure they're not, you know, accepting the words of somebody that they'll take them down that type of path. Like, and I don't know, man. I just think he felt like a lot of people, like the Patriots definitely failed him. The NFL failed him. Like his mom failed him. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's just, and he failed himself. And
I mean, and that, I think that failure is the most telling. He failed himself, because even though you have these people failing you, ultimately you're responsible for you.
Yeah.
Brian, you're my brother. If you're going through something, I can be there for you. You can pick up a phone, we can come see each other, we can hang out. Right. But at the end of the day, there's gonna be a moment when you're alone.
Yeah.
And you gotta make those decisions on your own.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you gotta see the forest through the trees. And sometimes these guys don't see the forest through the trees. And you know, the only part that broke my heart was listening to him talk to his daughter on the phone.
Yeah, that was tough.
The only part that broke my heart, because I don't think he fully realized what he was doing to this little girl.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you give him all this love in the beginning and thinking you're doing a great job, when all you doing is setting this girl up for more heartbreak than even you went through, because now you're not gonna be there.
Right. in more ways than one. If he would have stayed, he would have been in jail for however long. Or now that he's succumbed to his thoughts or whatever, and killed, committed suicide, and he's not going to be there for her. Whether or not that's ultimately a good thing, we'll never know. But yeah, man, like we still, like, I go back to see the CTE thing. Like, we talk about decision making, and he failed himself, but at the same time, it's like, dog, like, the brain holds the decision making processes. Like, once that's damaged, things can go any which way. So that it's a tough thing to actually, like, to say that, if somebody wasn't responsible for himself, and that but you can make that case too, that these brain injuries kind of erode the the accountability, the self responsibility that people have or could have.
Aaron Hernandez was, a clearly rare case in the mental health realm.
Oh, absolutely. He was the worst case scenario.
So let's talk about Delonte West. Right? Yep. Delonte West, local product. Grew up in PG. I even played with him once or twice when we were younger. Clearly, we weren't on the same level. Even younger. He went on to go to Roosevelt and start Eleanor Roosevelt, not Theodore, but Eleanor Roosevelt, and ended up landing him a scholarship to go to St. Joseph's. That's where him and Jameer Nelson actually were backcourt tandem, and they were the best. They were like the best backcourt tandem in college basketball at one point, and ended up going like 27-0. Only lost 2 games that season. He came out after his 3rd year. Got drafted by the Celtics. Played a couple years for the Celtics, and he was part of the Ray Allen trade. It took Ray Allen to Boston, and up until then, I mean, Delonte was perfectly, like, he was just going through.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's easy. Like, I don't know how we can. Some people just get worse and worse. Things can get worse if they're untreated. So we don't know how he was hiding things, or if he was hiding things. I know we had that incident where he was on a motorcycle and he had shotguns in a book bag or whatever, and we don't know exactly why or what preceded that.
He was out of the league by then, though.
And
right?
No, I thought it was between that and when he got onto the Cavaliers. I thought he got to the Cavaliers after that incident. I think he was on the Cavaliers after that. I think. I can't remember. I don't recall.
No, he was. I think he was out of the league by now, at least out of the NBA. I think he wasn't retired yet out of basketball, but I think he was out of the league because his last team he played on, I thought, was Dallas, and then he went overseas. But you talking about when he was on the Spider and he had like one pistol on his holster, one pistol on his ankle, then he had a shotgun on his back.
Yeah,
driving around.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought that might have been cool. Like, you can't really.
But the thing is, he didn't say he had it because it was cool. He said it because he had it for protection, right?
I mean, yeah, okay. So he was with the Cavaliers when that happened.
Okay.
I'm looking it up now. Yep. Anyway, no, I'm not saying of course that's not. Like, I know a lot of people with guns to protect themselves. I'm saying, like, I don't know anybody who rides around in a you know what I mean, 3-wheeler with a shotgun on their back. You know what I mean? Like, or like, I know if he's not in those serious, like, if you're in beef that where you have to have the joint on your lap, then I mean something's going terribly wrong. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Who was he running from? Who was he protecting himself from? You know, that's it could have been something that was completely conjured up in his mind, that he was feeling the effects of whatever is happening to him now.
Paranoia,
Then
you mean?
we
He could have been dealing with a
yeah,
paranoia.
yeah, absolutely. And if you watch, like, I didn't retweet the video, but if I did happen to see it, not the one where I saw both actually. I saw where he got beat up, and I saw the afterwards, the after. I don't know who recorded them. Police. I know they're investigating.
That was the police officer. Where the police officer was questioning
okay. So
about what was going on. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like complete paranoia. Like, who knows what that was about? So
yeah, because
man.
So what happened was there was one video where he's in the middle of the street headed towards Indian Head Highway, and there's this guy just pummeling him, and at one point stomping him right in the middle of the street. He's not fighting back. It wasn't back and forth. It was just him getting beat up. And then the next video was the police officer questioning him, and he said that the guy had a gun or something like that, and it's like it didn't add up. Like, what are we talking about here? All I could think of was, man, this guy's gone, and he just doesn't look like the same person that that I know from '96. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, and I think we all, like, all on our family circles, we have a responsibility, and people that don't want help aren't going to get it at the same time. But you gotta step up, I think, a little bit when you see those things in, not saying like his teammates or anything, but like maybe his employer, his former employer, or his the union that he's still a part of, and man, it's tough to see people go through that, and it's like, man, where is everybody at around him? And maybe they all tried to help, and he just didn't accept it. But man, and that's when people talk about mental illness, that's what I see that's the end. That's how it is when you're at the end of the rope.
So it goes back to, you know what I'm saying, having that team, and not everybody's fortunate enough to have that team, but
no,
like the fact that
that's true.
When you remember a couple episodes ago when I was talking about how they tell you how these leagues are fraternities, right? So that goes for the NBA too, because when we're younger we play basketball. They say, well, you need to get an education because they give you that number of like 1 in 100,000 ever make it to the NBA. Da 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 da. So it's a fraternity too, right? And and especially over the last 5 years, they've talked about mental health. Now it's interesting that it took for a guy like Kevin Love to check out, for them to actually acknowledge it. But a lot of guys come from way more stressful environments with way more pressure to save. Like Kevin Love wasn't expected to save anybody's life by being a basketball player.
No, his father he lived around here. He was from this area. His father was in the NBA too. His father, made money. This organization. So yeah.
A lot of these guys in these sports arena, this football and basketball, and even some of the guys in baseball, excuse me, they're expected to change, not just increase the lifestyle of certain people. Like, they are then expected to succeed at all costs and change lives.
Right.
Change your mother's life, change your sister's life, change your father's life, and be that lightning rod for positive change in people's lives. And people are so selfish about how they get their piece of it, how they get their piece of it. And because people are so manipulative that
sometimes they don't have the gall to come out and just say, listen, I want X, Y, and Z. So they hang in there and pretend to be something that they really aren't, just so they can, reap the benefits. If I were a rich man, I would much rather you come and ask me, can I have this? Versus you smiling in my face, hoping that I'm just going to give it to you.
Right. No, no. You get this. Like even in like it's in baseball too, because you got the guys that's coming from South America, from Dominican Republic too, and they're expected to change their village or their town or whatever. Like that, it's a weight that it can break you if you're not careful. It's tough.
So when I think about Delonte, I'm thinking about like, man, that sucks. But I'm thinking like, you know what? He may be exactly where he is because there's one thing that he doesn't have to worry about in his position.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to worry about people asking him for anything. He doesn't have to worry about the pressure of providing for his village anymore.
Right.
Because he's shown that he isn't equipped for it. Right? That's
no.
So So he had to break himself down to the lowest denominator, because even when he was still, I guess, leveled, and he was playing overseas, he was still getting some money, and people see you and they think, oh, you got some money. They think you still have stuff to give. So he might have gotten to the point where it's like he just sabotaged himself to the point where you see that I have nothing to give.
Right.
And now people who would have then used to come up and ask him for stuff, now they cross the street just to avoid, being recognized as knowing them.
Yeah, that might feel easier for him. You know what I mean? We don't know. Like that's true. That is it. Like I've thought about that a lot. Like it's easier to not live on this path to being responsible and trying to put people on your back and all that. Like it's the other way is much easier. You know what I mean? Or looks much easier. I don't know how much easier it is because I never tried it, but I don't. Yeah, man.
To be the person who has the heart to want to help and save everybody isn't a role meant for everybody. I can say for myself that I'm one of those people who, if you are dear to me, I want to be able to help you. And I want to try to figure it out. I want to be able, if you needed $100, maybe I couldn't get you 100, but I want to know how much this 20 might help you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I have it and I can help, I will. And when I can't, it bothers me a little bit. I'm not going to, beat myself up a lot about it because I only can do what I can do, but it bothers me, But I would never, if I had it, I would never shy away from being the person that would help other people, financially, or not necessarily just to be able to set somebody up to where they aren't, because I know what it's like to, be hit with financial burden. I deal with financial burden, right? But I go out and I figure it out, and most people do, but some people aren't built for it and they just end up crumbling, and they do things to run away from that attention.
Yeah. It's tough out there. It's not built. It's not the cards is stacked against the man. So yeah, man, you can definitely see how the pressures of this of what's around you can settle in, especially on somebody that's already dealing with maybe some things that aren't aren't like some conditions that require more help than other people. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, just you saw you should see the Orlando Brown. That's just another thing that he says that he puts Nick Cannon's name in his mouth, saying that Nick Cannon had his something else in his mouth, and it's just a form of acting out that he's been doing over the last 5-6 years or whatever, however long it's been since we've seen him, and we know that he has a drug problem, and those drug problems are affecting maybe some other problems, or either the cause or just a symptom of the problems. And man, it's like we just all we do is put a spot. It's on the Shade Room. It's on Complex. Like all we doing is putting a spotlight on this guy for
exactly
a terrible if Nick Cannon did do that, why are you putting his business out there? If he didn't do that, then you're slandering him. You know what I mean? So, it's just why are we're adding this fuel to his fire? Like, we're giving him exactly what he wanted, and talking about it, putting it up on IG, putting it on the major media sites, and it's just the wrong way to go about handling somebody that has the issues that we've known Orlando Brown at this point to have. So it's kind of disappointing. And Nick Cannon wrote this long post about it, and it's like I'm not gonna read all that, but bro, I get you. I understand what you're saying, and I'm trying to I understand. That's where I'm at with it.
So my thing is, we can't look at Orlando Brown as like an unusual case. What is Orlando Brown? He's a
child star.
A child star. How many normal child stars are there? Like 2?
Not a lot.
They're like 2 normal child stars.
Right.
The Olsen twins were like the sweetest little girls. They look like 50-year-old grandmothers right now.
Yeah.
They look like they're gonna read your palm and put a spell on you any minute. That's what you get with the Olsen twins, right? It's something about that lifestyle. It's just you just go left.
You see Drew Barry.
That constant, trying to be something to get something versus just living your life and developing into being a well-rounded person. Now, clearly it goes back to your surroundings and your team. But if you don't have that, and you have people just pushing you to constantly be something that you're not, and you just buckle under pressure, and sometimes you lean on drugs and drinking to cope with it, and everybody isn't just smoking a little weed, and rolling a joint or sipping a glass of wine. They're going hardcore pills, staying up late trying to kill this audition, go to that audition, do these shows, do that show, and they're killing themselves, and then they just mentally break down. And sometimes you have it where they have a team around them and they pull them out of the limelight. They pull them out of in front of the camera, give them a chance to recalibrate, live some normal life, go through some normal life stuff, and then come back and find your niche, after the fact, because you have some that have really, come into their own as adult act. Leonardo DiCaprio is a child star.
Yep.
Giovanni Ribisi is a child star. I haven't heard about him doing any crazy stuff. You said Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore.
I mean,
Yeah. She went through some crazy stuff and then came back. That's another. Robert Downey Jr. is another one. She was on drugs. She was. I think she got arrested a couple times, if I'm not mistaken.
She wasn't Lindsay Lohan with it.
No. And I think that has a little bit more to do with the times that we're in. I mean, and Drew Barrymore is when she was a child star in Wild, and that was a little before our time too. So that's another thing. But I remember that story when they was coming back with Charlie's Angels and this, that, and third and stuff like that.
So I say that to say Orlando Brown's latest incident isn't as crazy, but it goes back to what you said. Why are we giving it attention? Granted, if he was saying about some random person, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't care. But it's because it's Nick Cannon. We're like, uh-oh, here we go. Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I said was, I hope Nick doesn't respond to this for words.
Oh man. Hopefully, I don't know.
Like, don't respond to this for words, Nick. Like, it's above it,
Right. I agree.
So
yeah, he did come out. He did had this big Instagram post, but I think that he'd probably leave it alone after that. I mean, I don't think they run in the same circles either, so probably see each other. But yeah, no, I don't know. We want to get to it's a very off the beaten path. We saw Kansas and State last night. Maybe we talk about this Saturday. We're gonna record on Saturday, so hopefully we can talk about a few things. Maybe Kansas State. Maybe Zion. It looks like Zion went off in his debut, or is going off. And yeah, man, there's some things to talk about on the next episode. But I think I want to keep this as closely, knitted with the mental health and bringing awareness, man. If you need help, there's support there. There's people that are out there that want to help. So if you need therapy, there's therapists, there's pastors, there's counselors all around that can listen and hear you and give you some information and allow you to process some of the things that you're going through, man. So, and get yourself out of situations that you might not be able to undo, like shooting people.
What up? If you listen to this, then you're already on your way to starting your own podcast for free. Anchor.fm makes podcasting as easy as rolling out of your bed. Build your own brand, develop your own content, take over the world at no cost to you. Your podcast will be streamed through Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and if you're on your laptop, iTunes. If you haven't already made the move, download Anchor app now on Google Play, the Apple Store, or online at www.anchor.fm for free. Did I mention it's for free? It's your boy T. You're on the ride up.
And we got a special guest with us today, Miss Zamaya Bill.
Yeah.
Hello.
What's going on?
Nothing much.
Once you're on the podcast, you're part of the family. So you're part of the On the Ride Up family now.
Hey.
That's what's up.
So over the course of the last couple of days, there's been several topics, and they've all screamed mental health. And we wanted to approach our episode from that angle because I feel like that's what connects them all. Like, yes, you can look and see it's sports, but it's about mental health, and that's what we wanted to talk about today. Because the big talk all week has been the Aaron Hernandez docu-series on Netflix, and that was a big one. And then you had like 2 days ago with Delonte West having another episode where he's getting attacked and he looks like he's just out of the sorts and disheveled at like a homeless guy on the street. And now, today, just as today, you had Orlando Brown having another incident where now he's saying some outlandish stuff, and it's like, man, what is wrong with these people, right? Like, what's going on with them? And
Right.
it's major because if we start off talking about Aaron Hernandez, and just before we would get into the full spectrum of his story, just the ending part, him committing suicide, but him having his brain preserved for study, and
Mm-hmm.
the crash of other NFL players who committed suicide and left their brain to be studied for CTE. And you had a few people who left football early, which is crazy because growing up, you think, oh man, football is the greatest thing ever, especially if you get to do it professionally. And to see these guys who on the outside seem like they're a picture of health at the top of their game, and they're walking away from the sport that we all love. And it's like, what's going on with these guys, right? What's going on with these guys? So it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So I don't want to. I don't. Before we get into it, I want to talk to Samaya. And Samaya,
Yes.
you are a person who has seek professional counseling to get through your tough times, correct?
This is true.
So I just wanted to, what led you to that road that said, what, this is this isn't for me to bear on my own. Let me get help.
Well, my particular case it wasn't necessarily my choice,
Okay.
due to unfortunate circumstances uh, within my environment. It pushed me to, it was highly encouraged that I go talk to someone. Initially, I didn't want to, I didn't feel like it was the right move, like I could figure it out, I'm good by myself. But once I went, it definitely was a relief to talk to someone that would actually listen to you without interruption and could give you some sound advice and allowed you to take your time to process through what like I went through. So my events really pushed me to go. It wasn't something that I was raised on, to, oh, if you have issues, go talk to someone, blase, blase. It was kind of like you need to figure it out or talk to your family, they'll help you, and that's it. But I'm glad I did it because it's helped me throughout the years. So,
So, and I thank you for sharing that. So for me, I have always been the person who a lot of my friends and colleagues have come to have healthy dialogue, because I've always
mhm.
been the type of person, even when I was little, that the way my brain is wired, I, instead of being a yes man or a pat on the back type of friend, I've always tried to rationalize the other side of the coin to try to help you get a better grasp of the situation in its totality. If you, now, I don't have a degree, I'm not, I'm
Right.
I don't have a degree and a doctorate saying, hey, I'm a professional at it. But I don't necessarily agree that you have to be to help somebody through something by just letting them talk through it.
Right.
But as a black boy who comes from a broken home, who's seeing a lot of things that you wouldn't want your kids to see, or go through the ordeals that they go through, you know, I'm told as an adult that that's, we're suffering from PTSD. And for me, it's always been problematic to accept that, because I feel like it's doing a disservice to veterans, people who went to war, and like real shock trauma, to say they're going through PTSD, and to say what I'm dealing with or people like me are dealing with dealing with PTSD, and I should go seek therapy, to get over what I'm dealing with, or not to get over, or to help me through it or cope with what I'm dealing with.
Right.
Do you, Brian? Brian, I know, because I know, even though we may not have had the same paths growing up, we did have a split with, through being black men and black people, and because both of you two are light skinned, right? So
There you go.
there's a interesting dichotomy there, though, because we only battle being black. We're not just ridiculed for being black. It's like we don't want you guys to stick together. So we're gonna figure out any and everything we can to even divide you within your own houses. So, we like the light skinned one better. So the light skinned one was praised and it was accepted, and there was a divide between black or darker skin versus lighter skin, nice hair versus bad hair, or whatever bad hair one may be. So,
Right.
as a person who's light skinned, you would think that you would enjoy having the upper hand, but you also get backlash from the darker skinned black folk who think that they are more realer than you, or more down than you, or have realer or more real issues about being black because they look the part versus you. Have you two experienced that at all?
I can't say. Well, I can say that I've gotten girls saying, "Oh, I don't date light skinned dudes," or whatever. I've heard that a few times over my life, but as far as having to prove my blackness, or thinking that people are against me because I'm lighter than them or whatever, I never really had that come about in my life. I've always just been as real as possible, and people just that's what it was, and we was all in it together. And I tried to make people around me, the people I call my family, feel that. And it's not no oh, he's dark, he's white, or he's African, he's from here, or whatever, he's Caribbean. We was black, we was coming up. It was we all ran from PGPD, when they came around, and it was just, we just lived how it was.
How about
so
you,
I never
Zamaya?
really got that.
Did you feel like any extra pressure, not just being attractive, but because you're light skinned?
Well, in my household, no, but definitely in the world, yes. Me having freckles messed up my little situation, because it's like you can't be black with freckles. And when I was young, I was very, very light skinned. So yeah, I struggled. People thought I was naturally mean. I got the whole "you're not black" talk. People not talking to me just because they don't know. Children being children, and no adults around to really, or mature adults around to explain, black folk can have freckles. That doesn't change their blackness. Um, but yeah, I went through it. And I guess it's gotten better as I've gotten older, but as a kid, it was pretty heavy in this county.
And
Yeah.
and for you, it's a little more heavier because it's a rarity to growing up. There was a rarity to see a black person
Yep.
with freckles. So, but
Yep.
not only do you have freckles, it's a family trait of yours to be at least fair skin or light skin and have freckles, correct? So,
Yep.
because your sister has freckles, several of your kids have freckles, your mother has freckles too. Am I correct?
My grandfather on my dad's side, even though he's brown skinned, his father was light skinned with freckles. My grandfather on my mom's side is very fair skinned, and freckles kind of a bit more consistent on his bloodline, but it was definitely very rare when I was younger to see a black person with freckles.
So
I think that contributes to what you were saying though earlier, T, about how you oh, it was disrespect. You people say that you're people that grew up like you in these inner city areas and just in working class areas being black, suffer through PTSD, and they do. It's not really a disservice. We just need to call it to veterans. They see things. They see traumatic experiences. And somebody in a car crash saw this traumatic experience. If they, somebody might have got ejected from a vehicle. That's a traumatic experience. That doesn't mean they didn't go to a war zone, but that's something that somebody would have to work through in their mind. So I think, and then so several years of seeing car crashes, just like whether that's fist fights or whatever the case may be, violence through your childhood, formative years to being an adult, and you thinking that's normal. That's not normal. That's not that shouldn't be normal to us. So we should work through, we should definitely talk and work through that type of thing. Like it makes us, but at the same time, we shouldn't like excuse it as being normal. And then there's several things that go along with that. Like we live in places where there's lead paint. That affects our brains. That affects people's brains. And we don't really even talk about that. Like we CTE, like kids. When I was growing up, people was hitting we doing Oklahoma drills when they were 6, 7, 8 years old. So how does that affect somebody's brain? You know what I mean? Like, and that's just how it was in the hood. Like you playing in the street, whether you playing in the street or playing organized football, you doing Oklahomas, you know what I mean? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I saw my brother doing them in Sea Pleasant. So I was like, does that carry long term? Of course it do. You know what I mean? So it shouldn't be a discredit to veterans. It just should just be something that you should acknowledge and say, yeah, there's a process to being well adjusted to adjust yourself.
I would definitely say my rationale with that would be, it's just we are in a world where it's like there's one-upmanship, and it's another level, it's another form of one-upmanship, and that's probably why I and a lot of other people who are like-minded as myself probably think it that way. It's like, somebody tells you a story, and then what your response is, oh man, let me tell you what happened to me. Your story was crazy, right, but my story is crazy. It's like, okay, yeah, you saying you struggling with some stuff. Oh, daddy wasn't home. Well, this guy's suffering with stuff because he's seen 5 daddies get shot, or he had to kill 50 people. It's just that level of
Yeah, I mean that's just, I think that's funny because I think that's not funny, but it's a reality, because I think that, like, even in 2020 you see how white people are rushing to be oppressed, like they don't want to let the stage be for the minority in this country. So it's kind of, but we're poor too. We're this too. We're that too. So that happens, and I think that's a human society issue, that we try to one up each other with our struggles.
It's the reason why I asked you both about your upbringing and your complexion. Where Zamaya, you and your mother are like close in complexion,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian, you're lighter than your dad, correct?
A little bit, yeah.
Well, so for me to not have my dad, like, he wasn't the prototypical deadbeat. So I won't. It's not that, but him and my mother, went their separate ways when I was like 6 months. So it's like I would see my dad sporadically throughout the year, but he wasn't there. So by definition, it was a broken home. Though I did have my stepfather there, but I feel like because I wasn't his biological son, there was a fence. There was a fence around his interaction with me. Like he made sure I ate. He made sure that I wasn't in harm, but we didn't have a lot of like me and him bonding moments. Me and him didn't go out and do a lot of stuff where it was just quote unquote dad and son stuff. Mm-hmm. And as a kid, I didn't think anything of it, but as an adult, I find myself struggling to understand my ladies desire to do family outings with me, her, and my son, and it's like it tears me up inside because I don't want to blindly sabotage my relationship with her because I'm not used to doing certain things. So it's like it doesn't register for me. And when it doesn't register for me, it comes off as lack of interest, where it's just I don't have the same enthusiasm because I've never experienced it, you know, and it's not something that I like. I saw that type of stuff on TV, and it was like, okay, yeah, I saw it on TV. It wasn't something that I was pressed to have, you know. But on the flip side, I always have my son with me, and that's the part that I know that I wanted. I really make sure that I'm always trying to have fun. Like I do the little things with my son. When I'm in the bathroom getting ready for work, grooming, I'm in the bathroom and he's right there beside me, so he gets to witness, you know, the things that a man should do to take care of himself. You know, but for me, you know, have my dad was 6 feet, light skinned, and he walked, I guess, in his prime. He walked around at maybe 215, so he was like a great build. Everybody loved my dad, like 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 everybody. Like I don't know one person who could say a bad thing about my pops. He was very charming. He's a Brooks. You know, we're very charming men. So and we're very funny. So I couldn't be light skinned. I was never gonna be light skinned. And the odds of me being tall, being as though I was always a scrawny little one, I knew I wasn't gonna be 6 feet unless I had some miraculous growth spurt. So the only thing that I could emulate was being charming and being funny. So that was my thing. I was like, okay, I can be funny. That's natural. I can be charming. I can be smart. I can be intelligent like my dad because I can't be light skinned like him. You know, and I don't want to, let's say I was it wasn't full blown jealousy of my dad or full blown envy, but I did notice that I was more envious of guys who were in the category of my dad. Like I wasn't jealous of my dad because he wasn't my peer. But I did notice that I felt some type of way when I would lose out to like the girl, to the guy who was light skinned, because they didn't even want uh these girls. They were on to something else. And I would be like, you alone, I'm alone. You know what I'm saying? You make, I would go through that, and it was one of those struggles, and it really made me angry with women when I was growing up. So I
If
did
I
them
could
dirty.
jump in. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
But like, okay, so just to give more of a background, like I work with adults with disabilities, right? Intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, like, on an everyday basis, I have to always consider each behavior that may occur or moment in time that may occur. It could allude to some type of trauma. From what I've gathered from working in this field for 6 years, trauma is such a huge umbrella. And even with the things that we deal with, like a step parent that's not, in my opinion, giving off that emotional love that needs to be there, because they may feel it's a disrespect because the father or the mother is still around. I think that's a problem. And as both of you have mentioned, you keep going through certain things over and over as you get older. It impresses on you. So then you grow up to have these feelings about certain situations and not realizing in real life, you just experienced the trauma. And that's why, it's difficult to deal with. It's difficult to talk to certain people or hear certain things or whatnot. So for me, it upsets me. I too, I didn't grow up in a home with my mom and my dad together. I had to visit my dad. I've met different people on both sides. And those relationships, if you're going to choose to be in somebody's life and be a mother figure or a father figure, it is your duty to treat that child, I would hope, as your own and create those long lasting relationships so that they can grow up and create their family and give off that love that child needs. Ultimately, they need it. And again, to go back, like you can't, like, it's unfortunate because in our community we can't even like talk about it. Like you'll have people grow up and they'll have their kids and they're like, because every person isn't as, they won't word it as nice as you see. Like it'll be, no, I'm showing this kid that they're just not accepting it, or no, you don't see it, when in reality, you're not even like looking at yourself for real and really thinking about what you experienced and realizing that you did deserve as a kid to be treated another way, like the way that the path that unfortunately you were on, that it wasn't your choice. You weren't given the best options. And as an adult, people don't want to receive someone telling them like the way you're doing it is wrong and you should fix it, because it will change that kid as they get older. And it should affect you as an adult once they become an adult, that y'all don't have that relationship when you've been around them for so many years. Like that's really sad. And then these professional counsels or the therapist that's here, they're in place for a reason. And I don't like to hear people act as if there's a problem to talk to them, because they are unbiased, and you can cry it out, yell it out. I've been there. I've cried, I've yelled, I've tried to fight. I've come in intoxicated because I was just over my life, and to be able to release, and that person is not mad at you at the end of that conversation because you let out your emotions, is awesome. And you feel better and you could process. And then you can start coming up with, these goals on how to better deal with your anxiety, or how to come up out of that depression, and then be able to explain to other people, I'm sorry, but this is what I go through and this is what I need. And unfortunately, if you can't provide my needs to help me come out of, or be patient with me for me to come out of my moments, then I probably shouldn't be in this situation with you. But trauma is a huge umbrella, man.
So as a person who's had a long-term relationship, as well as at the same time as going through counseling,
Mm-hmm.
how much responsibility do you put on your partner to understand? Because the reason why I ask that is because, I feel like sometimes there are just things that the other person that you're with just won't understand. And even though you do want to share everything, sometimes you don't share because you don't want to resent your partner because they're incapable of giving you the reaction that you want, right? But you're going to counseling for a reason, because you've decided that, you know what, I need someone that the person who I'm involved with on another level can't provide. So, like, do you understand the question and what I'm asking you?
Mm-hmm. So initially, like, I didn't realize that I was dealing with anxiety and depression. So we had about a year and a half, maybe 2 years of rough patches, It wasn't pretty. Arguments, crying, fussing, yelling, etc. Right? Once I was officially like told exactly what, because yeah, when I first was told to go to counseling, I already kind of mentioned it. I wasn't really going. I'm like, no. And then when I was going, it was when I really felt I needed it. I didn't go on a consistent basis to like for it to have an effect on my life. But once I started to go, I was told that, if you feel comfortable in sharing with your partner, it is okay to talk, because that person needs to understand what you're going through, and he needs to know how to support you when he sees these things. So initially, yes, I was talking, but then when you start having these spats, and then it starts being brought up like, oh, well, you do this and you're doing that, and I don't believe it's real, and you go to therapy for a reason. Now we have a problem. Because what you never want to do when you're like, talking to a person that's dealing with things like that is throw it up like that's not cool. It can cause more drama. So that's when the fade out comes. Like, maybe I shouldn't talk to you. Maybe it is too much. You know what? Maybe you're dealing with some things that you haven't recognized yet, right? And I'm making it worse for you, and I'm your trigger now. So maybe I shouldn't do that. So for a while, I just stopped. And it becomes, unfortunately, like, what's wrong with you? And it's just like nothing. It's something I have to kind of deal with on my own. I have to figure it out. And once I have concrete ways of how to deal, then maybe I can just give you, a quick talk with, hey, if I go in my room and shut the door, I'm probably not having a good day, and I probably need an hour or two. before I, seem okay and ready to be with the family or have a movie night, etc. And just go from there. But it's really important to understand your triggers, and it's really important for people to be able to accept the fact that you are going through some things that aren't all the way in your control. And if you are seeking help, to respect the process. You cannot belittle it. You cannot call people out their names for it, because you never know when you yourself may have to seek some type of counsel. It might be through a professional. It could be through a trusted friend or family member that just knows how to talk to you and like let you release and still give you the same tools that a therapist or whatnot may give you. So I think it's case by case, but me personally, I had to fade out from talking about my stuff because I did realize it was becoming a problem for that person.
So my biggest fear, because it's like I don't want to be a toxic person. I think naturally normal people don't want to be toxic, right? And I've always been a person that's able to be composed even in the most stressful situations. And a lot of times it's been to my detriment when it comes to relationships, because the dialogue that women need, women need dialogue to know where they stand. And when you have dialogue, regardless of the dialogue or the whatever you're talking about, it allows them to have a window to have a conversation. Because a lot of times as men, we don't really we have, oh, did you see the game last night? Did you see what happened on that TV show last night? Those type of conversations we generally have with our significant other, and we make it hard for them to have, seamless transitions into what they're dealing with, and that's when they come off as, oh, here we go, right? And it's unfortunate, but for me, I've always just been very, very in thought. So I don't want to project my hard, long, irritating day on the person who I care about, right?
I think it's about how you look at it. Because your day, like, it shouldn't even be posed as that. Like, just because for you it's irritating doesn't mean that she doesn't want to be of support to you to let you release. And I feel that's the difference between male and female too. Because I feel female will take all of that. I mean, guys feel like they do it as well, but we are saying like it's okay. Like if you want to, yell it out, yell it out. Like don't hold back.
Yeah. I've definitely had to. I definitely in my relationship, I've had to figure out that holding stuff in and being the the statue or whatever isn't healthy for either one of us. Like, so it you think it's weird to try to let somebody in on those moments where you're not as secure, or it's not the best time, you didn't go to the best day. It's but those things coming out can help you as well. So I've seen that like firsthand, definitely.
For me, and I don't want to come off as if I'm speaking for anybody other than myself, but for me, what I have a problem with is if I have a moment where I'm one way, that you then have the opportunity to use that moment as some example later on down the road. If, for instance, if I had something traumatic or something bad happen, or if I was just down on myself, I wasn't feeling my highest, and I cried, just hypothetically, right? And I cried, but then, I then look at someone else and say, hey man, what are you crying for? And then they turn, well, you cry. That part right there, that is where it's like, okay, now no one can ever see me cry again, because you've taken my moment out of context. And that means everything to me. You know,
But also, can we just not care? Look, this is where I'm getting to in life. Like, and we do this thing called person centered thinking in my job too, and I've applied it in my personal life, and folk around me hate it. But it is what it is. If a person can't accept you for who you are, even if you had that moment, and they cannot accept that moment, they should one should never be using it as a negative in any way, shape, or form. If they love you, they shouldn't be doing it. And if it slipped out and they did it out of anger, they should be, asking for your forgiveness with the quickness.
but what if they're
But you
not
should be
saying
able
it?
to be yourself.
What if they're not saying it as an attack? What if they're saying it as to disarm me, in an attempt to disarm me from being a proud person, not realizing how I may take that statement, and that's my whole thing is, while I don't want to give you ammo to make me mad on accident. I don't want to give you the ammo to now have you in my sight on accident, because I care about you, because I love you, because I want to be able to. And don't get me wrong, it's not like you're gonna always have great moments. There's gonna be bad moments. The longer you're with somebody, the bigger opportunity you have to screw up, right? And I think if you go into a relationship with the understanding that sometimes your partner's gonna mess up. They may mess up small, they may mess up big, and you gotta, I guess, case by case decide what you're willing to go through. I'm not, you've had some people be in relationships and they've been hit, and maybe they got hit just one time, maybe they got pushed, and they moved on. Somebody been told shut the hell up one time, and the relationship was over. Because
But
it's
that's
like
just
nobody.
them being strong, and I'm not gonna take certain. Well, I'm not gonna say strong. They're just deciding whether or not they, want to deal, and it's absolutely nothing wrong with that. People just need to really stand for who they are. Like if somebody call you out on something that you did, first of all, I cannot give you the power over me and my emotions, right? So okay, you mentioned it, and even if they don't realize that them mentioning it makes you upset, I would probably let them know, like maybe you shouldn't. I wouldn't do that to you, so please don't give me that. I know what I did, and I don't need you to give me that reminder. And if they make you slip again and they want to call it a slip and I feel some type of way about it, if I want to cut you off, I'd rather cut you off and save my sanity and save my peace than to keep you in my life and you keep on making these little comments or throwing these little shots that I'm not appreciating. And I think, and again, people that do stuff like that, it's from their upbringing. Like, what has been done to you? Because everything is not a joke. Everything isn't a game. Everything isn't by accident. You start to you keep doing certain things, it means something. And I got to look at you for that. Like I said, I want to protect my peace. So if you want to keep calling me out, something like, for example, with the stuff I do, I've been called crazy. Crazy is a trigger for me, especially when I'm very overwhelmed. Do not call me crazy, because you don't realize that when I did not know what I was dealing with for years, I was feeling crazy and I was feeling like I can't move on and I can't do this, and I got kids. I'm the only one. I can't be feeling like this, but I feel like this. And now you saying it out loud. So you telling me I'm looking crazy. So don't call me that. And then if I spaz when you can't have a feeling because you don't even understand my past. You don't understand my path that I walked on. You don't understand what I've been through. Even if I tell you, you won't get it. So people need to be very cautious. Like, treat me how I need to be treated. Don't treat me how you want me to be treated, because you will always fail. You'll always fail. So
I'm glad you brought up the word crazy.
no
So
problem.
that lets me know that you're on the side of thinking that crazy is just a dismissive term, right?
Yep.
Now, while I do agree that crazy is dismissive, it's also a thing. And I think if somebody's acting crazy, they know they're acting crazy. Listen, I don't want you to be crazy, I want to help you from being crazy, but in order for me to help you from being crazy, we have to first acknowledge that you acting crazy.
No.
Right? We have to establish an understanding of what crazy is in you. Because crazy is different for some people.
This is true.
Some crazy is T-bars, burn your house. Left eye, burn your house down.
Yeah.
Now, some crazy is justifiable, right? I mean, sometimes people get driven to being crazy.
Right.
You know, men drive women to being crazy all the time, and that's a reality. Men drive women to be crazy, and vice versa. Women drive men crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We drive each other crazy, but we have to acknowledge, okay, when I say you're crazy, this is what I mean. Right?
Or maybe just not say the word crazy and just say, hey,
this is
what's happening.
I mean, this is what I'm seeing, and this is how we need to get back to a peaceful coexistence. Like this, you don't have to like put attribute. Like I've learned this too. You don't have to put those type of attributes on it or descriptors on it that could lead into just more anger and more like.
Because that's all they hear. All you hear is crazy.
Of the behavior that you're going to describe as crazy. You just want
to. Maybe you're hearing crazy because that's all you're thinking. It's crazy.
No.
Okay.
If you walk outside and you feeling confident about your outfit, and a person that you value, right, is telling you, nah, that's whack. You know what I'm saying? If you're having a bad day, yo, and like at the end of the day, like you not even like all you may hear is like you may start second guessing yourself, like, dog, maybe I should change my shoes. Like maybe I need to change something. You know, you start you know like, but you don't want to. You can say things without saying things to offend someone. That's the overall point.
Okay, so
that's all.
For me, when I call somebody crazy, it's when they are doing something or saying something that is irrational. That is, when you think or say something that is irrational and it makes zero sense to nobody, and when you try to explain it, you make even less sense, that is crazy. So, Kate, I'll give you an example. I was dating a young lady, and this young lady was staying in my place of residence, and I don't know whether or not she went through my pocket or was just. Anyway, she found a receipt from when I went to the movies, because I go to the movies by myself. Now, when you go to the movies and you redeem a ticket, it says redemption on it. She called my phone while I was at work, going crazy, threatening to do harm to or damage my personal belongings at my residence because I was dating some other chick, and who is this that you went to go see Redemption?
I know what this is.
That is the definition of crazy.
Okay, so let me clarify real quick. That is a crazy act. When I say crazy, I'm only speaking on the terms of somebody dealing with some type of anxiety, like some type of mental health. Because if I didn't have anything going, somebody called me crazy, I'm laughing at them. But because of what I go through, and I know I get overwhelmed and etc. If I'm in that moment and I'm called crazy, you have a problem, and you're probably going to be X'd out of my life. I'm probably not going to talk to you for a little bit. If you just got a chick that's just thinking you doing something, that's a whole nother, ball game. She crazy. She crazy. You got that one.
I mean, like I said, there's levels to it. So you just being mad about life doesn't necessarily make you crazy.
No.
What you wear doesn't necessarily make you crazy. Now, if you got a weird look in your eye, I might call you crazy
Yeah.
Warn other people like, yo, watch out for this person because they got a weird look in their eye. They might be crazy. That's a trigger word to say, watch your butt. Right? Like,
right.
Sometimes at my job, we get people who come in and they acting a little crazy. And I say, hey, be careful when you deal with that person because he might be crazy or she might be crazy. Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, it's just the lack of rationale when somebody is at their wit's end. And to them, I don't think they realize they're crazy because of what drove them there. We think you're crazy because of the destination that you at now. It says, "No, you crazy. You crazy."
But that's why it's good to just get to know people overall. Like you really do. You have to understand people's baseline. If I want to give y'all some of my work terms, know the person's baseline.
I just want to put this number out there. This is the number to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 1-800-273-8255. Because, and I give that number out because I feel like that is another part of mental health. Some people just buckle under the pressure and, they need somebody that's going to help them through it. And I think they are really good at it,
Yeah, that's important. That's important to know it's not over. Even if you feel like it is at any given time, and hopefully that works. That gives somebody the hope that they need to get past any issues. Yeah, man, it's been a long night. I'm gonna have a tough time editing this one too.
For me. I do the opposite. Well, the good thing is I've never smoked, so I never had the temptation to smoke weed. But drinking alcohol, I drink for a good time, not to drown in my sorrows. Because if you're smart enough to know how alcohol works, then why would you succumb to put yourself in those situations?
Yeah, no, you don't want to add depressant to depression or anything like that. So,
because if you're feeling weak, don't be weak and then put yourself in a more weakened state of mind to where you be, more inclined to do some harm to yourself.
Right.
So let me, before we wrap this up, because one of the TV shows that I like watching was 13 Reasons Why.
I didn't watch that.
Okay.
Well, okay.
You didn't watch that show? And it was about It was about a young lady who killed herself, and then the whole
the premise like it's like nah, I'm good on that. But okay.
You said the premise frightened you?
Nah, shut up. The frighten me. Nah, it's not entertainment to me. Like that's like suicide is not entertainment. I don't think somebody getting driven to kill themselves is
Well, I think it's a really good show because what I like about the show is that it sheds light on the role that you can be potentially playing in somebody's depression and the role you be playing in somebody's happiness. I think that's what I like about the show because it's not just this depressing show where it's all about depression. They touch on the parts that people were happy and then the things that people were sad and they were mad. And we need to examine ourselves and say, okay, what role do I play in everybody's life that I interact with? And you should always want to, be better. So I think that's I bring it up to just say my finishing point is to, when you out here, strive to make people's lives better. It's not about money all the time. Find out what it is that you can do and just make people's lives better, even if it's just for a moment.
Absolutely. I think that's a good ending point, man. I ain't going to step on that. Until next time, guys.
Want to ride up?
Peace.